Hello, beautiful people. My name is Miranda Ampedu, and I am going to be your host for today. This is a Walk with God show streaming live from Faith Studios. On our previous episode, we were talking about the external forces that impact on our walk with God. And the previous episode, our main focus was on friends, how we choose good friends, to help us influence our walk with God, and how our friends can also like some bad friends can withdraw us from our walk with God. But today, our main focus on these external forces is the church. How does the church help us to grow our faith in God? What is the church's role in our Christian journey? Today, I have here with me my guests who will help me to better discuss this topic. So before I introduce them, we will go for a short break, a very short break, and we'll be right back. Stay tuned. Welcome back. At this juncture, I would like to introduce my guest. I have here with me Jude Watson, Kofi Poku. My third guest for today is a very special guest. Her name is Helena Crenso. You are welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Are you excited to be here?
Very excited.
Okay. Without wasting much time, we will dive right into our discussion. As I said earlier today, we'll be talking about the church's role in our walk with God, how the church can help us build our faith, and then also help us in our walk with God. So I may ask Helena, what do you think are the church's role in our walk with God or our journey, our Christian journey as youth?
All right, so thank you for the question. What I will say is the church is not the building.
Mhm.
So like if I'm talking about the church is in my opinion is made up of a body of people or
Mhm.
believers
Mhm.
with specific nature and vision, or let's say desire, like the reason why people come together to make up the
The
church.
church.
So the church is made up of the believers.
Mhm.
And so talking of the role of the church is what we believers together do to grow our walk in Christ.
Okay.
And so some of the things that we do is we want to like try to do as we walk with God to increase our faith is walking in unity. And so if the church is unified, we grow with our walk with God. We all look at the ultimate goal of meeting Christ one day. And so if we are together as one with one goal that we are helping each other with our weaknesses to get more close to God, that is the church helping each other to get to see God someday.
Great. Thank you very much. Unity. How about you, Kofi?
Well, as you said, unity together as one. When we work together as the church as a body, we can do many great things that may even shock yourself that you were able to do that because you couldn't do it alone. But when you do it together in a community in the church, you'll be able to do it.
Okay. Jude.
So, Helena and Kofi brought really good points that the church is not the building. The church is the people within it, and like the people that are within the church, they're like building blocks. So we build off of them, and they build off of us because we each have one similar goal, which is to go to heaven. So the church really helps us in our walk with God because we're able to like connect with each other and like each of our brethren. So then we can like help us advance ourselves in Christ, so we can all go to heaven.
Okay.
To add to that point, I feel as though the church holds different activities that can help build like the spiritual aspect of a young believer. Those different like evangelisms that you can try and do, or certain events, even prayer nights and little youth things exclusively for the youth that they can do that interest them.
Great.
Adding up to what I said, support is very important. If we get to support each other, we grow in our walk with Christ, and the church grows as well. And so if we support each other when someone is in need, we chip in instead of having people go out there and beg unbelievers to for support, that they tend to laugh at them and be like, oh, you people that claim to be like believers and like you can't even support each other. But if we motivate each other and support each other, we get to grow in our walk with Christ.
Okay. So, based on your experience or what you know, Do you feel like the churches are doing or playing these roles?
Personally, I feel like they're doing a great job because back to what I said, the church is the church comprised of people. So like if the church is hosting a program, let's say a prayer meeting or a mentorship program for the youth, it it is on the believers to show up, to get the message that the lead pastor or the leaders are trying to get across to influence our work with God. So if there are such programs and then you don't show up, how is it the church's fault that you
Because
are
they've
not
done their
growing
part.
in your work? And the Bible says that work out your salvation with fear and trembling. And so if all these things are put in place, but you don't make yourself available to be there to get the experience that you're trying to give to you for you to grow, then whose fault is it? So it's an individual way of growing in Christ. So somebody would take his Christian life seriously and work on it, put up on it with the focus that someday I get to see Christ. But somebody is more relaxed because everybody comes to church with a different reason and motive. Some come only to be seen, some come to worship, some come to just dance. So it depends on who you are and what your aim is or what you want to like achieve at the end of our journey as Christians.
Okay. Kofi, so what's your experience or what you know, what you've heard? Do you think the churches are playing their roles?
Well, I can't speak for every church because every church has a different sort of youth that they attend to. Personally, in my church, I feel like we have a strong youth group where we meet online every Thursdays. We have different events that they can help to grow the spiritual aspect of the youth. We join many like different jobs in the church because and when you work in the church, it makes you like more enthusiastic to show up every Sunday or weekday. So I feel as though because our church gives us jobs to do, not just because it needs to be done, but because it helps us grow and helps us become more enthusiastic and come into the house of the Lord. I feel as though my church does a good job. Yes.
Okay, Jude.
So as Kofi said, like we can't speak for all churches, but I do feel like the church is doing a good job because like there are so many things that you can do within the church. Like there's many activities from like the youth program and etc. So like even like there's something for you to do at the church. Like there's something that you'll be able to look forward when you go to church. So like for example, I'm in the evangelism team as well as the youth, and all of them they give me strong support. So like it makes me excited to come to church every day because I know I have a family back there, and also they're gonna help me to encourage me to worship the Lord.
Wow. So Jude is saying that he is part of the evangelism team, and then they support him really well. That's great, Jude. Keep it up. So moving on, I would like to know, do you feel that the youth in their churches sometimes feel judged?
Well, personally for me, I haven't had any experience where I felt judged in the church. Um, Also, my colleagues, I've never heard from them really, like, of them experiencing any judgment in the church. Like, most of the time, the church is very supportive and really, like, helping. So, like, the church, like, they have your back most of the time. So, it's not really a very, like, toxic environment where everybody is. Because as Christians, we're not supposed to be judging people, like, in the first place. In disrespect, because nobody can judge you except God. So, yeah.
Okay. Kofi.
Well, I don't think as it being judged because in the Ghanaian community, we know that our parents can say certain things,
Yeah.
they'll be teaching us, but they'll do it a little aggressively. To whereas, you'll feel some type of way. But later when I was growing up, I would learn that it's not really them judging me, but them telling me that I'm doing something wrong. I'm looking like the wrong way to show up to church. Yeah.
Okay. So it's not necessarily judging. They're just teaching you the
they're
right
teaching
way to
you,
go.
Even though they're a little aggressive with it. But yeah.
Okay, Helena.
All right, so personally, I don't feel judged, but there are people that I talk to, like friends in church, that we kind of like have a couple of conversations, and when they share their experiences, they kind of sound like they feel judged, but what I would say is most times that is what you take in, because let's say when somebody see you wearing like a short skirt, how some people how they approach you, like make the person feel like feeling really bad that they really want to come back to the church,
Exactly.
And let's say if somebody was like making a joke or something, but it turned out to be like the wrong way of saying it, especially the elderly. Instead of they calling you aside and like talk to you in a calm way or in a nice way, they tend to like kind of like, I don't want to use the word gossip. They kind of like tell this person, "Do you see what she was wearing? Do you see what you did?" and stuff like that. And I've seen someone cry in church because someone told someone about her dressing, and she was crying.
Felt
And I
bad.
was like, "Why did she approach you?" You know?
Exactly.
And the lady was like, even her daughter wore like something similar the same, like the following week, and so why would she? So people just take things in wrongly. You might not say it the wrong way. Some people will like, oh, maybe I cannot approach her personally, but I would like to like tell this person
So that
to tell her. But then the moment she hears like, okay, so this is coming from this person, but not you, they feel judged. Like, why did she come to me and stuff like that? So I feel like as Christians, we need to be very careful on how we handle like certain situations, especially with the youth, because when we get to a certain age, we become more sensitive. We become more sensitive to certain things that an elderly will feel like, but this is normal, this is nothing, or a kid will take like normally. We tend to take it like in more. So I always say that people should be very careful the way they approach situations and things in the church.
Okay, so the way you approach situations in the church can make someone feel judged or someone feel bad in a certain way. So if you feel like someone is doing something and it's not wrong, you try to approach the person in a nice way, because as human beings we know we are not perfect, and then in one way or the other someone is going to go the wrong way that you need to straighten up the person. So but then you don't have to do it in a way that the person will feel bad about it. Okay, thank you very much for your great responses. I'm really enjoying the show. It's getting really interesting. So I would like to know why do you think some youth can't stay in church? Like for example, when they go to school, when they go to college, upstate or boarding and like anything like that, they don't want to come back home or they don't want to come back to the church. Why do you think that happens, Jude?
So I feel like many of the youth, like they want to keep up with like the modern trends. So like sometimes their appearance or their dressing, like it's not pleasing to the eyes of like the older people, because like they were brought up a certain way. Like they're trying to like bring us up the same way that they were brought. So like once they go out to college, they don't want to come back because they want to be like, they kind of want to be free of that judgment and restrictions and kind of like be on their own self. So yeah.
Well, first, let's not demonize those who choose to stay in school, because sometimes when they're in school on break, they have their own houses because they don't pay room and board.
Right.
So because they own their house, they can even do more classes during the summer so that they can get their degree faster. But because people in the church don't see them as, they're up there doing whatever they want, they don't want to come back down. But even they're still in school, and many people don't know. But for those that aren't, for separate cases that they just stay there because they want their freedom per se, or I think that is personally, that's not what I do, but there's a reason for everything. Even though your reason isn't correct, other people have their own choices of what they want to do. Also, those that once they finish, they graduate and they don't come back, or you don't see them in church again. Well, that's because I feel as though once they've tasted that freedom of being away in school and living on their own, they don't feel comfortable coming back to being, under their parents or listening to authority again. I feel as though that once they taste that freedom, they want to keep it forever. So they just, on their own all the time. They'll work and then go home, and you won't even hear from them.
So there's nothing in the church that's preventing them from coming back?
I feel as though that they don't have authority over their own self, because once you're in church, you listening to others, you're still growing because we're in the youth. But I feel as though once they go away, they feel as though they're adults, like they're beyond listening to instructions and things like that. And they feel as though that in church they'll be bombarded with questions and things like that, so they prefer just not to come back.
So you're saying those decisions that they make are based on the youth themselves and not anything forcing them to go away?
I don't say that it's only youth per se. I can't speak for everyone. But in upper room, there's a lot of youth that come back to college, come back to school, and then when they come back to the city, they're involved in the church. And that's great that upper room does that. But many other churches and other youth programs, they don't come back and they don't they're not as active as they used to be because they've tasted the freedom and enjoyed it.
Okay, so adding to what Kofi said, when they have a taste of freedom, personally, why should a taste of freedom distract your relationship with God?
God.
Your relationship with God is a separate thing, and it all comes back to how you cherish God or how much you love God. So if you come to church because your parents are forcing you to come, or because your friend is coming, or because when you come to church you tend to like have fun, you could dance and laugh with a lot of people, there is food to eat, then obviously you don't have any purpose of being there. Right. So people like that tends to like when that fun activities are no longer there, they were like, what's the reason of me going? But right, if the purpose of you going to church is connecting to God and growing in Christ, then you always have a better reason to come back. Right. So if you go to college, Kofi made mention of some people tend to stay back for summer classes and stuff like that. That is, I mean, okay, because you are there for a purpose. But then the moment you are back in town to where your church is,
And we don't
nothing
see
should
you.
stop you from going back.
Okay.
It doesn't matter what somebody said in the church or somebody did to you or what anybody, did to distract your attention. Don't let things like that keep you back because you know what you are going for. You know your purpose of getting up every morning and getting all dressed and get to church. So why should you let people's comments and people's behaviors and people's things distract you? And some of them, they are just excuses. Some of them will just come up with some sort of line like, this person looked at me some type of way. And so we are humans. At times when you think like, oh, this person looked at me some type of way, but with the person, that wasn't even your intention. So why would you let those things like get to you that will prevent you from serving your God? And some people feel like, oh, I can still stay home and worship because these services are streamed on Facebook and YouTube and stuff like that. It still doesn't feel the same. No matter how you try to justify that action, it doesn't feel the same that being in the presence of God. And so it all comes back to, and I'm emphasizing on that, who you are and how you see God and your relationship with God. Because some people stop coming to church because a friend that when they come, they share the same seat with doesn't come again. So they feel like, okay, when I come, I feel bored. But it's not because of your friend you are there, right? Right. So that shouldn't be your reason of coming to church.
Yeah.
If you love God, these things are just like useless things. Kids don't even like fancy stuff like that, like that kind of friendship that will take you away from God and will, just I feel like people should just be themselves and know who you are. I always say that. Know who you are and what you want in life.
Okay.
God is so wonderful. He loves us all. And he really wants that relationship with us. We are not perfect. I'm not saying that I am perfect. But that is one of the reasons why I come to church. Some people even get offended with the messages that come from the pulpit. How can I mean a man of God like in the whole week go on his knees and pray and pray and pray just to stage a message just about you in a church of about, let's say, 300 or 400 or 500 people. How could it be just like you? It's your own insecurities that is making you have that kind of like thoughts. So if you don't know why you come to church, you obviously pay attention to things like that.
Okay. So Jude made, referring back to Jude, he made mention of, he said sometimes the way they use the dress, he mentioned of the trends, right? Yeah. So it makes them not want to come back because maybe probably when they go away, the church is over there, they accept them or how they are, or even if they don't do the things right, the way they address them, it makes them feel comfortable to come back again. What is your opinion or take on that?
Okay, so growing up in an African home, our parents tends to be very strict on how you dress and what you put in, or you put on. Sorry. So this is something that personally I've experienced. Like when you put on something and you look yourself in the mirror, something tells you, this is bad. Right? It's true. I've experienced that so many times, and there are times too, like when you put on some clothes, when you look at yourself in the mirror, you feel confident to step out. Probably meeting your dad or meeting your mom. Your mom won't have anything to say with it. And so if you have that home upbringing, and then you go away and someone tends to accept you leaving your cleavage and like wearing those short stuff, you should obviously know that you are falling apart. You are going away. Like it's how the world is getting. Like those trends, it's how the world is getting. That's why I tell people that gear your energy into important things that really matters. Let's say in a club and you are like dressed on properly and someone meets you like, oh, that's Helena store.
Oh no.
It doesn't attach to you alone, but like to the entire
and
family.
yeah,
And
that's bad.
that is the things that I know like the African parents try to
Avoid.
Right, they try to avoid because it's shameful. Personally, I wouldn't want somebody, tag my mom with my bad behavior outside.
Because there's even this saying that good name is better than riches, right?
I may be bad home, but like being bad outside, I'm not saying that being bad home is good, but some of the things that you do outside, you kind of like disgrace the entire family. So if dressing, the very moment you put on a dress, think about your mom, think about your dad, think about your siblings, think about your future husband, something, because you feel like, oh, let me post this cute picture on, Instagram. But the man that might want to marry you will probably maybe look at your Instagram first, like, this girl that leaves her whole breast out. And nobody wants to eat an uncovered food. It's obvious. And people say all these things over social media that, oh, the men date the like runs girls and those like hype girls and stuff. But when it's time for them to marry, they go for the like most calm and nice. It's true. It's 100% true, because every man wants a woman that is decent, presenting a woman to your mom or someone that you will one day, if God being so good, you get to walk on the red carpet with. Should be somebody everybody will look and be like, wow, this girl.
Now, Kofi, do you think that way?
Oh yeah. If my mother doesn't accept you, then it's over. I can't bring you home.
It's true. It's things that we tend to forget, like growing up. Like it's true. It comes back at you when it's time for you to get married, or it's time for you to associate with some certain category of people, and you see like I don't want to be friends with but some people too, if you tend to be friends with them, it helps you, it improves you, let me put it that way. And so if I won't accept somebody that dress some type of way in my circle of friends, obviously you're losing something important that I could share with you that could better your life.
Please, if I may, I'd like to add to that. One thing that I've definitely learned in the church, watching the leaders perform in the church, is that presentation is everything. Like I always say something like presentation is everything. The way you look before somebody even says anything to you or inquires about you, they look at the way you are, the way you dress. If you're dressed a certain way, like even to a job interview, they'll prefer someone in a suit over someone who's wearing jeans. And, so if your parents can't accept the way that you present yourself outside, why should they even, bring you with them, carry you to church, if you can't present yourself properly?
Okay, and also, sorry. I don't.
So to add on to, Auntie Helena brought a good point about trends, because it also depends on what type of trends like you decide to follow. Because obviously like we should be able to wear what we want, but you also have to be like modest, because as a Christian there are certain ways you need to present yourself. So like you shouldn't for like the woman, like you shouldn't be showing all your cleavage and etc. Also for the men, you shouldn't like have buzz cut or like mohawk and then tattoos all around. Like that's not the right way you should like show yourself, because obviously people always judge, and they're definitely gonna judge you like if you're presented like that. Because Kofi, as he said, like people the first thing we see are looks, the way people present themselves. First impressions are everything. So we need to present ourselves in a way that is modest, and also the way like a Christian is. Because personally for me, I like to wear sweaters a lot. my dad especially.
He's like, no.
To wear that, right?
Right.
Like you need to make sure that when you dress well. Like don't, I guess.
Dress appropriately.
Yeah, I keep dragging and I keep trying to think of words.
Before we end this topic, before I leave the house and I dress, I always want to make sure that the way I'm dressed, am I making my parents proud? Like when I step out, do people say, "Oh, you look nice"? Your mother must be proud of you. Your father must be proud of you. Because the way you are reflects on what they've taught you. What you do reflects on what they've done, how they've raised you. So before you step out the house, when you dress, you check your dressing, make sure, oh, well, Auntie Dana be happy with this. Well, other Kojo be,
Shout out to Auntie
presented properly.
Dinah.
But if we can link this question to like relationships, I feel like the guys also are a bad influence to the women because they influence what we were a lot. So there are some guys that want to like go out with women that kind of like look sexy, have
Their body
they
exposed.
they want the kind of woman that when they meet like around boys like they also feel like, that's my woman, right? Right, which is if you tend to have a boyfriend like that who can't give you like any good advice other than you showing your like good bad and
Oh,
obviously,
that's why you need a Christian man.
Right. That is not man to waste your time on. Like if you meet a guy like that, like run away. Run away. Because he's obviously not taking you anywhere. He's leading you astray actually. And you don't have to dress to impress a man. If a man loves you, he should love you even when you are more decent. If you have a fiancé or a boyfriend or whatever who can't keep you in check when they see you wear certain type of things or talk some type of way and they can't confront you and put you in the right place like, hey, don't talk like that, that's not good as a woman and stuff like that. Obviously that is not a good man to waste your time on. And to be frank, relationships like that don't tend to last, right?
So okay.
Sorry, but earlier she said that men influence the way women dress, and maybe some men appreciate those things, but a lot of times women also influence the way women dress, because you guys even recommend certain stylists and and now you go on Instagram, you see these models are showing off clothes by other designers, and I feel as though like social media also influences the way that women dress because if you wear a dress that covers everything, now it's not cool. People don't think it's cool. It's boring.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I want to say one last thing about like what Kofi said about like making your parents proud. Because like when you go out, you should always think about like obviously how Auntie said that when somebody says you shouldn't it shouldn't like prevent you from doing anything for like going to church and stuff. But like you also want to make people proud because like once you start receiving compliments and stuff, you're gonna feel some type of way, like you feel happy.
Yeah.
So like you should also do it for yourself.
For yourself, yeah. Okay.
Like saying all of this, it doesn't mean as a woman you shouldn't dress.
Okay.
You should look presentable wherever you appear. You should dress nicely. Now when people see you, like, this lady. Even if you're not like well educated to like a certain point, you should always look your best.
Right.
There are decent clothes and nice
out there.
Dresses
Yeah.
that could look excellent.
I see. So you guys mentioned of how people they use dress. I know sometimes we do too much, and that we need to be addressed. But don't you think addressing us in a cool way, in a nice manner, can even help us change our style of dressing?
Yeah, that's definitely because if some people when their parents talk to them they don't listen, but someone that they respect a lot try to like talk to them in a nice way and advise them, they listen. They listen. So like if you've had such instance in your home, probably you might, or maybe like cousins or stuff like that, they tend to be stubborn and then their parents take them to like, let's say the pastor or one auntie or one uncle, even to their grandparents to like, talk to your grandchild or this girl for me because she's trying to like do certain things that I don't like. So yeah, it's definitely.
Okay.
So like also what Auntie said, like humans are very receptive to like their surroundings and how people act around them.
Right.
Because like a person is more likely to listen if you talk to them in a nice manner and tell them like what they're doing wrong, opposed to someone is screaming at them or like aggressively telling them that what they're wearing is wrong.
From what I've learned, I feel as though the way our parents were raised, it was very strict discipline, and that is what they have been grown to do. When they come to America, you can't discipline somebody else's child the way that your parents have disciplined you, but that's what they know. So when your parents are addressing you, I feel as though as the child, you may not know, but you have to like take it with a grain of salt. Per se, know that they're not doing it to hurt you.
To hurt you.
Yes, but to rather teach you the better way. That as I grew older, my father started talking to me less of a child who doesn't know anything, or more of a young man that can understand certain ways to act.
That's true because some parents, instead of they being talking to you in a nice way, kind of like being in a friendly way that will make us better understand, they try to make it like a command. Right?
Yeah.
And you're like, I'm not a baby.
I'm not a baby.
Yeah.
Right. At times, the way they say it even tends to annoy you. I don't even want to do what she's saying.
Right.
You know, even though like you wanted to listen, but just the way they get it at you. I don't want to do
I'm not
anything,
gonna do
like,
it
I'm so
anymore.
annoyed. But it's true. The way they were brought up. So like when they see some of the things we do today, like I feel like they get like sick in the heart because they're like, how can my daughter
Do this to me.
How can my daughter do this? Like you don't even listen to me anymore. I mean, we all do that in our homes. When some at times I think my mom feels like, let me slap this girl. Let me slap this girl. But that is part of we growing up and wanting to explore. But like I made mention before, it all comes to who you are.
Who you are.
Right.
I feel as though the older you get, like the wiser you get. I've seen it happen so many times to where like my father would see like a trend starting before it even happened. So like he would tell me a couple months before. Yes.
Wow.
And then when he sees me doing it, he'll remind me. I'm like, oh yeah, he's right.
Didn't I tell you?
With age comes wisdom. So even though you don't understand what they're teaching you now, it's like it'll come
You'll
to
get
pass
to know
later.
later.
Yeah, I get Kofi because like as you get older, you come to realize that like what they're doing, they're not doing it to hurt you, it's make you feel that, but they're doing it to help you because like as you're a kid, your parents usually like beat you so you can like ingrain it in your head because you're still a kid and you're not understanding really. And like sometimes you get mad at them, like you don't want to look at them, just go to your room and cry. But like as you get older, like they more so like see you as an adult too because like they tend to, like my dad doesn't beat me as much as before because like, now that I'm older, he knows that I'm understanding and that what he's doing for me as well as my mom, what they're doing for me is not to hurt me, but it's to make me realize because like it's to help me realize that like what in the world is like there's many wrong things with the world. The world is evil and like it can influence you in ways that like that can mess you up. So they're trying to prepare you.
Wow.
That's
Wow.
actually, when this TikTok thing came up, so there's this Nigerian friend of mine who was like, oh guys, I just downloaded like TikTok. Let's have like
fun,
videos that they
the
do,
dancing.
like they dance and stuff like that. So I'm like, okay, let's try it. I downloaded TikTok. Look at that. This.
And you don't get it.
I'm like, that like I don't fancy stuff like that.
Yeah.
Sorry, but it's just not me. Like
That's
just
not
being doing everything just because everybody is
doing it.
It's just not me. Right.
Wow. I'm really loving your responses. Viewers, I know you can see it's really getting hot in here. And our time is very much spent, so I don't want to waste your time. We deal with time. But I promise you, though, we are going to do part 2 of this next week. So please stay tuned. It's a special edition of the youth and how the church and influences on our walk with God. So this is a Walk with God show with me, Miranda and Pedu, being your host for today. Thank you very much for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe because I know you have really enjoyed today's conversation. So see you same time next week. Bye.